East Region's 9th seed, California Golden Bears, and the top seed, the Connecticut Huskies. And hello everyone, I'm James Brown. Connecticut is a state that's always been sort of a sports filler for both Boston and New York, but not this March, as madness is at fever pitch throughout the state because the state has something to call all its own, the Connecticut Huskies. Big East regular season and tournament champions, ranked 3rd in the nation, and of course the top seed right here in the East. The University of California, on the other hand, has come a long ways in both distance and time. 3,000 miles and 30 years since their last tournament appearance, only to face the Huskies on here, their second home court in Hartford, Connecticut. And I'm working with Billy Raptor. And Billy, most of America is becoming familiar with Connecticut, mostly because of a very talented import.
Well, neither one of us could guard very well, James, so we could sit back and watch this talented performer. They trap very well. What he does best, plays the passing lane, deflects, and gets the spurts going for UConn, and they're devastating when they run.
California, on the other hand, is no pushover, has an excellent record on the road, and has a very dangerous perimeter game.
The country may not be aware of him, but Keith Smith, an excellent outside shooter, penetrator. They're going to have to get the ball out of his hands, but more importantly, the long shots, the rebounds. California's going to have to come up with the long shots if they're going to hang in this ball game.
All right, as you know, this is a rematch of last year's NIT second-round play that Connecticut won. California wants revenge. Connecticut wants the dream season to continue. Starting lineups in just a moment. For the PA announcer, Roger Baker.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hartford Civic Center for today's East Region second-round game between the California Golden Bears and the Connecticut Huskies. And now let's meet the starting lineups. For California at forward, a 6'4" senior from Santa Ana, California, number 30, Bryant Walton. For Connecticut at forward, a 6'5" freshman from Hamden, Connecticut, number 24, Scott Burrell. For California at forward, a 6'7" junior from Renton, Washington, number 40, Roy Fisher. For Connecticut at forward, a 6'7" freshman from Ramat Asharon, Israel, number 40, Nadav Hennefeld. For California at center, a 6'8" freshman from Walnut, California, number 15, Brian Hendrick. For Connecticut at center, a 6'9" sophomore from Florence, South Carolina, number 22, Rod Sellers. For California at guard, a 6'4" senior from Portland, Oregon, number 21, Keith Smith. For Connecticut at guard, a 6'2" sophomore from Bridgeport, Connecticut, number 13, Chris Smith. For California at guard, a 6'3" junior from Seattle, Washington, number 24, Ryan Drew. And for Connecticut at guard, a 6'5" senior from Newark, New Jersey, number 32, Tate George. Introducing the head coaches for California in his 5th season, Lou Campanelli. And for Connecticut in his 4th season, Jim Calhoun. Officials are Paul Hausman,
And
Scott
we'll be
Thornley,
back with the
Larry.
opening tip-off right after this commercial message. Region second-round action between Connecticut and California set for the tip-off. The officials Paul Hausman, Larry Rose, and Scott Thornley, and California controls the tip. This is Keith Smith, an outstanding guard. Played back up to Kevin Johnson his freshman year.
Man-to-man, trying to challenge the outside jumpers. Connecticut normally 2-3 zone matchup.
And a tenacious defense inside to Hendrick.
All alone.
Big freshman.
Emptied the backside out, James.
California on the board first. This is Tate George to Nadav Hennefeld.
Standard matchup for Lou Campanella and California. UConn uses the whole floor because of Hennefeld. Good spacing, and they kick it.
Chris Smith. And the sophomore from Bridgeport with the 3. Connecticut on top by 1. Full court press. Sellers with the steal. Tate George.
Composure, James. They've got to go over the top, hit the postman, and look deep. 2-2-1 by UConn.
First steal of the game by the Huskies, who averaged 13 steals a contest. And they rely on their pressure defense, Billy.
Yes, they do. And, of course, to play the good matchup, you got to know how to play man-to-man. They got to walk.
And Bryant Walton, the senior from Santa Ana, California, actually was lucky that time. Could have been called for charging.
And, James, you think the crowd is an advantage in Hartford?
As a matter of fact, Lou Campanelli said, even though our two teams mirror each other, the big difference, of course, is the Civic Center. Scott Burrell. And as you saw, a very ginger attempt on a part of Rod Sellers to go after the rebound. He, of course, suffering with that slight tear in that left knee. He'll have arthroscopic surgery after the season.
And I think it's worse than they're saying, too. He's having his troubles getting around.
Chris Smith, lightning quick on the wing. This is Sellers. And you can tell he's favoring that leg, Billy. He can't go with the power move to the inside. This is Smith.
Very quick. They overload Smith on the side for that open jumper. Good response by the defense.
It's a 5-2 lead by the Connecticut Huskies. 18-11 just underway here. Hartford Civic Center. James Brown along with Bill Raftery.
The idea for Lou Campanelli is to get people in the right spot. They have the last two trips, but you can see the passing lanes and trapping.
And this pressure defense by Connecticut starting to cause a little havoc out front as Phil Sellers Rod Sellers picks up his first personal foul.
He's going to be left alone with a pretty good performer. Brian Henrik is a good low post player. They look for him. In fact, he was kidding both of us yesterday. I said, gee, you post up very well. He said, but they don't get it to me all the time.
They do need to look for him a bit more. A rugged performer on the inside. Only a freshman.
Drew Walton and Smith. Nice little backdoor play. Can shoot the deep one. The three perimeter people. Look for the threes.
Connecticut now in the man-to-man defense. Good look on the inside. Fisher attempting to find Drew and throws it away.
Well, Tate George, being here a while, got away with one. A little hold. Didn't let the back door work.
3 turnovers in the last 4 possessions by California. And again, that's the name of the game for Connecticut. Turnovers and steals.
2-2-1. It can be a gamble.
Good pass. Smith to Burrell, and Burrell is fouled.
Well, if you're in a 2-2-1, it's sort of a passive zone defense. But with UConn, they turn everything into a challenge. It ignites their break. It's dangerous to press them.
Foul is assessed to Bryant Walton, his first personal, at the free throw line. Scott Burrell.
A little bit like you and his abilities, huh? Can play a lot of sports, all exceedingly well. And besides, a great student.
Solidly built body, though. Big difference.
Well,
he does.
You become softer as you've aged, gently. But he's come back after that knee operation and blended in nicely. He didn't try and force the issue when he got back for UConn. And a nice compliment, maybe the best all-around player for them.
1 for 2 at the free throw line for Burrell. Full court press by the Huskies. Roy Fisher at 6'7", bringing the ball up court.
Nice.
Steal again. This is Hennefeld, his first of the game.
Reads the passing lanes beautifully.
Smith. Hennefeld kept it alive. George, the benefactor.
3 things Hennefeld did: the passing lane, the cross-court pass, and then keeping it alive. The little things.
A 6-point lead by the Huskies in the early going. 17 minutes. This is Drew. George up to Smith. Back to Smith for 3.
Big rebound.
Strong rebound by Roy Fisher, but he's going to be called for traveling. Good aggressive rebound, but came down and lost his pivot foot.
They look for the 3, so if you're sitting at home saying, well, they should be patient after beating the press, that's not the style of California. They'll look for the 3s, punish it with the deep shot.
Coming from behind is a trait of the Cal Bears. Burrell. And Hendrick actually had a good block, but got him with the body, Bill.
Well, that's the little escape clause for the official, but their defense is excellent. Lou Campanelli, known in his early days as a man-to-man coach, gently at James Madison, changed that program, became upbeat, and now even though he's a student of Rolly Massimino and Bobby Knight, those people, he lets it fly.
Said that was a necessary adjustment.
Well, the game has changed quite a bit.
Scott Burrell, only a 58% free throw shooter on the season. Good form and rotation on that shot.
Of course, the good free throw shooting team enables them to set up their pressure, set up their traps, and of course the read by the free safety, Hennefeld.
They'll get a chance to do it right now as Burrell sinks the second.
Here's the first time. This is their home run. They deny the basketball by fronting the man and then rotate.
And the ball is in the hands of the team leader, Keith Smith.
They didn't get the rotation from the back.
And Billy, this press just nags you. After a while, it frustrates you, and you start throwing little passes like that.
Exactly. They never stop.
And Connecticut comes up with their sixth, forcing the sixth turnover. Burrell. Back here at the Civic Center in Hartford, Connecticut, and Connecticut has forced 6 turnovers, 3 steals, make it number 4 now. They have a 10-point lead on the Cal Bears. And Tate George is fouled by Brian Walton heading to the hoop.
The Dove Hennefeld belies his years. I don't believe he's 20. His experience worldwide shows the touch pass before commercial, the beautiful giveaway here, of course, stepping in passing lanes, as unselfish as they can be. And in December, they didn't know how to play with him, James. They were all one-pass shoot. Now, he has imposed his will on this team. Even when he's off the floor, they all still look for one another.
And there's no one happier to see him in a Connecticut white than Tate George. Billy, and again, you talk so much about Hennefeld. A lot of things he does do not show up in a stat column.
The defense, he gets the spots, the swipe, the cutting. He helps his teammates. The defense, he finds the hole. And, of course, the hands in the pass lane, all not showing at the end of a game, except to a coach.
George, a 72% free throw shooter, nails both of them. And it's a 14-2 Connecticut lead. Just 4 minutes into the game, and California turns it over again.
5-second violation on the inbound. That's the knockout, the home run where they front the inbounds, the next logical receiver. And Lou may, in this half, use a lot of timeouts just to get his club calmed down. It's been a very difficult beginning.
Campanella will not like these numbers. In 10 possessions, his team has turned the ball over 8 times.
And he does not want to come out of this matchup. He doesn't want to play them man-to-man. High-low fill. Great ball movement.
Smith for 3.
They turn the ball over with the best of them. Reverse the court.
It's a 17-zip run by the Connecticut Huskies, who trailed 2-0. They lead 17-2. And Scott Burrell, a little too aggressive on the trap that time. Picks up his first personal foul.
In the Big East tournament, Billy and Brent talked about how the referees call things against UConn. If they can get away with the bumps and the bangs and trap with a little push and shove, you cannot play with them. So Cal has to get those calls.
Keith Smith looking to go one-on-one, operating against Chris Smith, who's the team's quickest player defensively, and Coach Calhoun thinks he plays the best head-up defense.
And Tate's very good off the ball, he felt. Good hands again, the swipe.
Smith has it swiped again, comes up with the rebound, loose ball.
They got a jump ball.
And a possession arrow favors the Huskies.
The one guy we talked about at the top was Keith Smith. He is an extraordinary talent, but the press that he's seen, he may not have seen all year. Great ability to see things, and even with the lack of foot speed in some spots, UConn makes up for it with great anticipation.
And Billy, the intangible, all the grabbing and reaching and swiping really wears on you as the game wears on.
Well, I remember Jack Ramsey at St. Joe's. We played against them, and all we did was complain to the officials.
Smith shot rebounded by Keith Smith. 3-on-2. Ellaby runs into Hennefeld. Hennefeld did not have good position.
But the ability to get back. Now, he reminds me, and I've said this, of Larry Bird in this sense. He understands the game at another level. Doesn't necessarily have the foot speed, but he'll get back and anticipate the fast break.
Sophomore from Seattle, Washington, at the free throw line for California. They call him Mr. High Energy, and that high arching shot breaks a scoring drought for them. To take a look at what's happening around the country in NCAA tournament play out in the West, Long Beach, California. LMU awfully impressive in their victory over New Mexico State. Bo Kimball had 4 fouls in the first half.
And ball playing, is that confidence?
Continued to play and picked up 33 points in the second half.
That's a great story. Great win. And of course, Michigan very fortunate to get by.
Strong matchups out west.
And that press that they just had, they've got to press but get back. They can't give up fast breaks at the end.
17-4 UConn lead. 14:36 remaining as Hennefeld drives the lane and is fouled. It looks like Hendrick picked up the foul.
Finding the hole. Zone defenses can be beaten if you take advantage of gaps, areas where the defense is undecided as to who to cover, and who better than the Dove.
Foul actually assessed to Bill Ellaby. You take a look at Terreno Walker, number 42, coming in for UConn, replacing Rod Sellers. Really, so much has been written and talked about relative to Nadav Hennefeld, but the players say they in no way hold grudges against him, and he deserves every bit of the publicity.
How about the charm and wit that he possesses? They were teasing about his girlfriend who had been over, and he said, no, it was not a girlfriend. She was on tour.
All the way here from Israel, on tour.
Of course, a friend of mine was instrumental in him coming over here, Marvin Kessler, who coached in high school and as well as in Israel. And he was unhappy when he visited St. John's, did not like the dorm room or the situation of living, wanted some grass. No reflection on St. John's as an institution.
California shot missed by Bill Ellaby, rebounded by Tate George.
Great
Chris Smith. Chris Smith has one of the quickest crossover moves in the league. As a matter of fact, so many of the players around the Big East call it the Chris Smith move.
Well, I'm thinking of you. That's one you didn't possess. Would have taken you a while to get that momentum, that balance. He'll stop and cause the defense to move one way and then goes strong with the crossover.
Now, Dove Hennefeld takes a seat on the Connecticut bench. Murray Williams in for Connecticut. Keith Smith picked up the foul, trying to defend Chris Smith. Chris Smith, of course, a former player of the year in the state of Connecticut. And that's something that Jim Calhoun has really been successful at, Billy, is stopping the flow of top players out of the state.
Well, particularly from Villanova when you think of it. Murray Williams, another one.
Out west again, Salt Lake City, UNLV, Ohio State, Ball State, and Louisville. And, of course, UNLV, Ohio State coming next. Boy, that's a nice matchup. Randy Ayers doing a great job in his first year.
He sure is. Beginning of the year, he decided to play a little more half-court man and still pressure so they can play both ends extremely well.
And, of course, UNLV looked like the UNLV of old in their victory.
And what about Jimmy Jackson? He makes you a pretty good coach, too, huh?
Talent will do that. Drew draws a foul from Terreno Walker.
Well, right now, they've got to be a little more offensive-minded. Go over the top, take it strong whenever possible. They were in a deep hole early in a tough building.
A hole specifically 20-4. Connecticut on top, 14:02 remaining in the first half. Ryan Drew, junior guard from Seattle, Washington, averaging 10 points a game and is a 72% free throw shooter, but he misses the first.
Very good shooter, open shooter. the kind of start that you're looking for on actually in a road game where this building, all the tickets became UConn's.
The missed free throws, again, signs of frustration because of the press, the defense by Connecticut. Loose ball recovered by Hendrick.
This is the guy that's got to get them composed. A very talented performer, Keith Smith.
Ellaby for three. Rebounded by Fisher. And Fisher goes to the boards and scores. It's 20-6. Huskies on top of the Golden Bears. First basket for Fisher.
Because UConn, when you get a run like they have, sometimes you relax a little. Right now, Cal's got to step it up. Find out what's inside the shirts of UConn.
Burrell to the corner. This is Smith for three.
That's where they set the flow one way and run Smith through the opposite and reverse the ball to him. Very tough to defend.
Offensively and defensively, Chris Smith doing the job. Keith Smith being limited. Chris Smith has 11 points.
Early leads are deceiving. You get back in, if you get your comfort zone, go to your strengths. Look at this defensive reaction.
Drew, rebounded by Burrell. Chris Smith loses the ball on the move, and Luke Campanelli arguing adamantly that the ball was off of Chris Smith.
Roy Fisher showed some great foot speed, taking away the dribble path of Chris Smith. And what did Jimmy say? He thinks he can take anybody. Chris Smith.
Lyman DePriest and John Gwynn come in for Connecticut, replacing Chris Smith and Scott Burrell.
Jimmy Calhoun coaching here in what is a difficult state. They like to win every game and make you accountable when you don't. The high of the NIT championship a few years ago. Of course, this is unique in the history of the state.
A 17-point Husky lead with 12:21 remaining in the first half. And George, lucky that time. Bad pass intended for Walker. This is John Gwynn. They call him Microwave. As a matter of fact, the threesome compare themselves to the Detroit Pistons. Tate George, John Gwynn, and Chris Smith.
At a few more inches, he might be like Vinnie Johnson.
Traveling call on Williams. And Billy, this Connecticut squad is not an impressive squad in terms of height and size, but they do the job. They get 25 points a game from their bench.
Well, the tendency of people in basketball is to look at talent and forget team. And Calhoun has addressed that beautifully with the blending of all these talents. Good look.
Four-court press, and yet another steal. Lyman DePriest. Fifth steal of the game for the Huskies. Gwynn. He thinks one thing only, let's shoot.
Instant. The more people you bring down, Jane bound against the press, the more defensive people you bring down. And that's been a problem right now, as Cal has a lot of people on one end of the floor. Ooh. A condo shot. Get your down payment.
George. Rebounded. Walker strong.
You're always looking for players to step forward. Terreno Walker is one of them. The later stages of the season, he's been a valuable inside substitute.
Keith Smith has yet to score for California as the Huskies get the loose ball.
Numbers.
Little too fancy, and John Gwynn picks up the personal foul, his first.
Now, you've played in games that are up and down with pressing. It takes a lot of self-control to become composed and get into your offense. Well, Connecticut just continues to trap all areas of the floor.
Well, Billy, we get some idea as to why the fans in the state of Connecticut have taken to the success of the Huskies. An impressive showing in early going 25-6 lead over California.
And how often you've heard announcers say it's their defense that sets up their offense. You seldom get good shot opportunities. You may turn it over before you get into that area.
John Gwynn now draws the assignment of trying to defend against Keith Smith, but inside move by Hendrick, and good second effort.
They haven't gotten into their offense other than early in the game for the low post action.
And that's something California should be able to exploit more. Gwynn yet to find the range.
You're right, James, except they haven't been able to get it down in there to run their offense.
This is Ellaby for three.
Quick to the ball. Those are the rebounds Cal has to come up with.
NFL. This is the easy shot.
Look at this.
And almost makes up for it.
Great understanding.
From the wing, and California gets a three-point shot by Brian Walton. It's now a 25-11 ball game, and Billy, you said that Cal will be back.
But early on, it's not important. You want to have that big lead late. You'll take it anytime they'll give it to you. But they're a good basketball team. It's just the building, the obvious importance of the game. They've got to get that relaxed state.
Tate George, the Dove NFL, John Glenn, Terreno Walker, and Lyman DePriest, the 5 in for Connecticut. And George got away with the walk that time.
The spacing, though, they'll skip pass, they'll go over the top, they'll quickly touch pass.
7 seconds left on the shot clock. And Gwen inside to Walker.
Pretty. What a depth touch. That's the contagious nature of NFL. That didn't exist last year or early on. His presence.
Lyman DePriest on a nice pass from Terreno Walker, and it's a 27-11. Huskies lead. Fisher swatted away by Walker. Gwen.
Oh, the neck ball. I had a kid that led the country with that kind of shot.
And Billy, you would much prefer to have a miss, but not that kind of miss.
That's embarrassing for a good shooter, because that's a jump ball situation. The possession arrow goes to Cal. Oh, will you hear about that? That's a dozen yolks on your face.
Gwen and Walker take a seat next to Jim Calhoun. Sellers, Chris Smith, Lyman DePriest, the Dove Hennefeld, and Tate George, the 5 in for Connecticut.
And Smith doing a good job keeping the ball away from Keith Smith. And that's what the call you need right there. When they trap, they'll body, they'll slap. You have to get cooperation from the officials.
And Fisher was hammered by Tate George. George picked up his first personal foul. And California certainly can get back into it quickly. A good shooting team, particularly throwing up a three-point shot. As a matter of fact, Billy, in the victory over Indiana, as California calls timeout because of that defensive pressure by Connecticut, California shot 26% in the first half against Indiana, came back with 61% in the second half, so they can come back. Lou Campanelli showing his frustration, his team trailing by 16. Back to live action. Ellaby gets the inbounds pass for California. Bill Ellaby, Andre Reyes is into the game for California, 6'11" junior. Brian Walton, Roy Fisher, and of course Keith Smith, the 5 for the Golden Bears.
1-3-1 for the first time now. The box is open, and of course the baseline jumper. But look at the great trapping situations. They outnumber you 2 and 3 on occasion on the ball.
And they play it with passion. Multiple defenses.
Let's get it. Isn't that what Jim Calhoun said? We'll trap. Let's get one. Go the other way.
And California turns the ball over. That's turnover number 13.
Look where you're catching the ball, though. The sideline, the ally of the pressure defense. You've got to get away from that. Great job on that end. Execution by UConn.
UConn forced the Boston University Terriers into 27 turnovers in the victory Thursday night. And there's 8 minutes remaining in the first half. They forced 13 already on California. And a nice left-handed move on the inside.
Great step through as Sellers popped, flashed into the post. Defense tardy. This is a buzzsaw right now defensively. Coming out with 2 people playing the Tate playing the passing lane. Straight up man now. They pull a string on you. You think you got one figured out.
Smith trapped in the corner. Andre Reyes, he shouldn't be out there with the ball.
Look at this pressure, though.
Fisher. Tough shot by Fisher. NFL right on top of it. But he scores 29-13.
Great
NFL. This is the chippy. Sellers with the rebound, blocked by Fisher. And the Golden Bears thought it was their ball, but it goes back to the Huskies.
They're not getting calls. And, of course, you mentioned Fisher. He has tried to step it up a little to help his club right here. Step it in. Pretty good reaction. They just don't run it down, but a soft enough block that they could have.
Scott Burrell in to replace Lyman DePriest. Only one senior on this Connecticut squad, and that's the young man with the ball who certainly remembers the lean years when they were 9 and 19. And George gets the roll.
Always kept his head up, though. He and his mom took some heat in this building and on campus. But the assist leader for this club, great composure, great look earlier, as you saw at the Hennefeld.
Trying to take the charge was George. As Raftery mentioned, the all-time assist and steals leader here at Connecticut.
There are mountains to climb. You know, you're trying to get to 15, then to 10.
And give the credit to Chris Smith.
Didn't he do some
for
job?
Keeping that one alive. And Smith on the offensive end. Hennefeld. And Burrell, the benefactor. Billy, a perfect example of the little things.
Can't run, can't jump, but can win. The slap back. And you mentioned Scotty Burrell finishing it off. I showed him that. Remember I wrote it down? I said, the dove. You can't run, you can't jump, but you can certainly win.
As Tate George takes a well-deserved rest. John Gwynn in to replace him. George leads with 8 points and 4 rebounds.
Big decision for Burrell. With his future with the baseball, a couple of years, he'll be looked at again. Major league prospect, turned down a lot of money out of high school.
$175,000 from the Seattle Mariners, but he will join the baseball team as soon as the season's over. Bill Ellaby comes in to replace, or make that Ryan Drew for Cal comes in to replace Bill Ellaby.
They can't get in position to take the threes. The trap has taken away the three-point shot and passes like that.
Connecticut. Gwynn with the hustle. Jump ball, possession arrow, as everything else favors Connecticut.
It's an onslaught right now. Cal can't just stop the sliding. As we mentioned, Keith Smith, once he gives it up, he's not able to get it back to do some damage.
5:57 remaining in the first half. Huskies on top of the Golden Bears, 34-13, and Lou Campanelli is arguing to get the possession arrow now to face the other way.
They're claiming that they forgot to change it earlier. And anybody who's coached has been in his position. He's just trying to stop the water from coming over the top.
Gwynn off the mark. Sellers with the rebound.
Doing a much better job on the glass, UConn. The guards have to go down and help out for Cal.
The story for Cal, in addition to 14 turnovers, Keith Smith, the team's spiritual leader and scoring leader, has yet to score. And a foul called on Connecticut.
On Burrell down underneath. Of course, in talking to Fisher and Smith, I was sort of glad you were there with your Harvard background.
Bright kids.
Articulate.
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, it was interesting. We'd get the question halfway out, and they'd pick up and start it before we completed the question.
It doesn't take much to read through my mind, I know that. Because now the gamble is, do you press? And if you do, which type? I don't know if Lou can go all out because of the numbers game. UConn really punishes you.
Roy Fisher misses at the free throw line. Cal gets the rebound. 5:29 remaining.
With the half-court set now, they got to go deep, I think. Get to the foul line. That's the job.
And Sellers, coming over the back, picks up the personal foul. That'll be his second.
Jimmy Calhoun, you think it was a tie game. He's very good at working the officials. Keeps busy, implores, cajoles, and then occasionally turns to the bench when they're looking at him so the ref doesn't see him.
He's very adamant when the call is first made. As soon as the official comes to him, he does what?
Turns and runs like a kid in a candy store.
Sellers takes a seat on the bench. Storino Walker replaces him. Ryan Hendrick. And of course, those out in the California area know that he is the son Former baseball player George Hendrick. Played most notably with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Unusual free throw shot. If you'll take a look, James brings it all the way over from his left side. Of course, you get into habits as a free throw shooter. You step, brings it all the way over to the left knee and then across the body and up. Usually people keep it in the middle and up.
Averaging 15 points a game. He's only got 5 in the first half.
That's about the only loose ball Chris Smith hasn't come up with. We're 1-3-1 out of this now. Always full throttle. Don't let the opposition relax.
This is a marvelously conditioned Connecticut squad to play the kind of defense they play for 40 minutes as Hendrick goes up strong. Real rugged inside player.
What a great cut. The middle was open. Walker down on the baseline. Good position.
7 points for Brian Hendrick. And the big fellows need to be rewarded more for doing the dirty work on the boards and particularly working on the inside to get free.
You can remember, huh? Yes, you got to compliment them.
34-16. Huskies on top of the Golden Bears with 4:40 left in the first half. Smith misses a 3 and Fisher.
Good kick.
Long pass up to Drew. Touchdown.
Well, they do need some easy baskets. It's been such a struggle. Hanging tough, though. And again,
first basket of the afternoon for Ryan Drew, and the Bears have cut it to 16. Cal on a 5-0 run.
It takes a little out of you when you have a big lead, too. You start to get a little silly, maybe quick with your shot. Still a match, 2-3. They got Hennefeld with one.
Little push off with the right arm as Hennefeld picks up his second personal foul.
Well, he likes to, what's the name they dubbed him? The Gaza Stripper or the Gaza Strip? Well, in international ball, you can do this. His ability to post up on the smaller guy, and Paul Houseman, who's seen a few of those bully tactics down in the ACC, right on top of it.
And easy to push around a guy, Keith Smith, who's only 175 as Tate George comes back in for Connecticut.
How about his dad? You're too old to remember. He played with Oscar with the Bucks.
Oh, I remember him well.
Said his dad would be home watching the ball game today.
Greg Smith, of course, we're talking about, who played with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. First basket, first point for Smith.
14,
4:15 mark, his first 2 points of the game.
They're right there. Now, what you're looking for if you're Cal are tougher shots for the opponent. You should know what they're running. They've been overloading, and of course, dribble penetration. Here's the overload.
NFL for 3.
That settles everything down. He does what they have, exactly what they need.
4 points for Nadav Hennefeld. A lot more that won't appear in the statistical column. And Smith loses the ball off of his foot. And I'm sure he's trying to draw on the advice of his father, Greg Smith, the ex-pro, saying, keep your head, stay in it. Individual performance by Bo Kimball last night in NCAA tournament play, as well as Travis Mays from Texas. Michigan Steve Fisher 7-0 in tournament play. Billy, you like the third?
Yeah, I think it's a real tribute to the committee. Jim Delaney, 15-16, still alive. And, of course, down below, how about the ACC teams?
I think some of those coaches will scream and say, hey, the committee didn't show us enough respect. Look at what we're doing.
And, of course, Ball State, great couple of years, 54-9, and deserving of play at this level.
And the point there about the ACC, Clemson, the regular season champion, a 5th seed here in this region as Tate George gets called for traveling by Larry Rose.
Well, after the timeout, a little change. Lou Campanelli figuring, well, we're getting punished when we go full court. Let's run a half-court trap. And it was effective.
A 17-point Husky lead. California doing a much better job shooting from the field the last several minutes. Dan Cyrillic in for the Huskies at center, number 55.
Now, man-to-man, they can get inside. They should go to the big guy.
And George bowls over Fisher.
Hendrick all alone with Cyrillic, and he'll foul, too. He's a physical kind of a player.
And not a good sight here as Keith Smith of California comes up limping after running off of that pick. And Fisher scores and is fouled. But again, Keith Smith out here at half court trying to run off. Almost a slight twist of his ankle.
You think it's the ankle? I thought it may have been a Charlie horse, you know, the banging on the track. It looks pretty good, though.
Maybe so.
Well, he's coming back. And this is where, when it goes man-to-man, they've got to go inside to the big people. Roy Fisher with a nice roll. And he has a gentle way when you speak to him, but pretty tough when he's out on the floor.
Let's take a look at Keith Smith heading to the bench. And Billy, what he did, he grabbed his left ankle and the front of his foot. A lot of times when you go through those picks, you'll get jammed up in there.
Well, you're right on top of injuries, knowing your difficulty. You're playing with a bad thumb.
Surgery on Tuesday, but it's easier to talk as opposed to running with it.
You must have gotten it caught on the subway or bus store, because I know you didn't get it picking up a check.
As Roy Fisher nails the free throw. California, in the midst of a 10-3 run the last 4 minutes, have cut it to 37-23 with 2:45 remaining in the first half.
With the great
round play here in the East region.
James, I'm sorry, with the great outside shooting, you notice how they space, they use the whole floor and they go over the top. So when they're composed, they get shots like this.
The coach.
It's Hennefeld, the coach.
Sean Harrell, the ball handler now, having replaced Smith as Drew goes for three. And Drew nails it. And this is what you were talking about.
Step. James, they got stepped, but it wasn't Tate George's fault. He saw Chris Smith deep, and just as he went to throw, the reaction by the Cal defense caused the turnover. But a good look, unfortunately for Tate George, his unselfish play cost him.
Billy, the Bears play well on the road. In Pac-10 play, they were 7-2 on the road, and in all 7 games had to come from behind to win.
And struggle at home, and Harmon Gym, one of those places you don't want to go.
5-4 there as Harrell tries to get the dipsy doodle, and he's fouled. Scott Burrell, pushing foul on the rebound. Great basketball action all day right here on CBS. Game 2 coming up, of course, Ohio State. Randy Ayers doing a good job with an impressive squad against UNLV. And Clemson LaSalle, the second game from right here in the East region, Hartford Civic Center.
Great defense man-to-man, so Ohio State will be tested. Of course, that last foul by Burrell, very important. He has his third, and that limits the flexibility for Jim Calhoun.
Terreno Walker in to replace him. As Sean Harrell, 5'11" guard from Santa Cruz, California, misses the free throw.
The smallest guy.
By Drew.
Made free throws are important in a lot of respects. Most importantly to coaches, you can then set your defense. What you want. Is it full, three-quarter, or half? Your communication level is much better. Go low with the man-to-man, James. Very simple.
Walton for three. Rebounded by Sellers.
Can't forget about Hendrick. Go to him.
Smith. Three.
He doesn't get set as quickly as John Goyen, but when he gathers and he's straight on, it's automatic.
42-26 lead by the Huskies. 1:24 remaining in the first half. Walton. Strong follow by Fisher, and they're going to call him for coming over the back.
Oh, you're punishing a guy for a great effort. Oh,
I agree.
A little spark there.
Maybe if he had slammed it through, they made him let it go.
Why do officials see everything and ruin the game for us?
First personal foul on Fisher. Don't forget, coming up at halftime, the road to the Final Four in New York. Jim Nance and Mike Francesa.
Up late last night, I watched them. I'm sure they reported right back to the hotel room.
Two basketball junkies indeed, and they'll have all the action for you from last night and preview on the weekend's action.
Smith is back and seems okay. I believe it or not, maybe the rest, just to get his head a little bit clear. He's dribbling against the traps, and that's been his problem. When he sees man, he can do his magic. When he sees the trapping, give it up.
Larry Rose saw something on a free throw that he didn't like, a violation.
Oh, they got the double.
To California.
Double elimination, jump ball, change of possession. We see it all early here.
Seller's trying to get a little too cute down on the free throw line. 1:18 remaining in the first half.
See all the dark shirts at the one end, James? They got to get out once they get it in and let the people dribble or one guy post up. Now here's man again. Henrik should touch the basketball.
Absolutely.
Or get it into Fisher if he posts up too.
Fisher trying to pull Walker out away to open up the middle for Hendrick on the inside.
Ryan ought to let them know his number at halftime.
There he is.
Not a good
Bad
direction.
pass.
And look who made it too. Instead of the guards, one of the bigger guys.
That's a problem with the big guy coming away from the basket at times. John Gwynn in to replace Terreno Walker. Now switch.
Out of a familiar, out of a familiar school, DeMatha. John Gwynn.
And I'm sure Morgan Wooten, the high school coach, there's a little surprised to see Gwynn so offensively oriented. Under a minute. Two-second difference between the game clock and the shot clock.
Well, Cal's got their legs, though, even though it's a big deficit. I mean, a little composure now. They seem to know what they want. And UConn really come out ready to play, didn't they? Aggressive in nature.
12 seconds left on the shot clock.
Winner Smith.
Chris Smith for three. Rebounded by Keith Smith.
Got time.
Ryan Drew, good if it goes. And it's short. So that's the end of the first half with the score of Connecticut 42, California 26. CBS Sports coverage of NCAA basketball will continue after this message.
CBS
Civic Center.
Oh, it sure is. The building alive. Of course, all the people that left certainly took care of the UConn fans. But this beginning, very important. No question. Cal has to get a level of consistency on both ends.
Tate George. Tapped in by Scott Burrell.
Quicker to the ball.
10th point of the afternoon for Scott Burrell, who averages just over 7 points a game as Chris Smith picks up a foul defending Keith Smith. Billy, that matchup right there has been decidedly in favor of Connecticut in the first half.
Well, these two Smiths aren't brothers the way they're playing against one another. Chris really challenging, but Lou Campanelli, I'm sure, spoke to the officials. He needs those nickel dimers, the little tag fouls, because once there's physical play, he's in trouble. That's the second time a timeout has been caused by great pressure defense.
And Roy Fisher has to burn off one for the Cal Golden Bears. They'll talk it over, trailing by 18. Connecticut.
And, of course, the backcourt difficulties. The perimeter shooters not having a good day, 3 for 12. And, of course, the kicker, Smith. Keith Smith unable as they get the offensive foul on Hendrick. 0 for 1, Keith Smith. He's got to get more shots, but just incapable of getting the ball in right now against this full court pressure.
Bill, that speaks volumes for the kind of defense that Connecticut has suffocated the Golden Bears with.
Different levels.
Just underway here in the second half. James Brown along with Bill Raftery. East Region, second round action. California and Connecticut.
They have a lot of levels of heat. They get all the way to the equator on some of them.
To the equator. Sellers. Billy, he can't jump.
Now he's really shown a lot of heart.
Really pushing, though.
Good post up.
Hendrick, strong move on the inside. Billy, if they can obviously create that more often, they'd be in a better shape.
Well, the idea of the trapping, I think, is to make them work. Kick it around, post up, let them work a good 30 seconds. And then when they go, man, get it into those big fellas.
Hendrick is strong enough to take all the slapping on the inside, try to work it to him, force the action.
And he doesn't take bad shots, so he'll kick it back.
Two armchair coaches here as Burrell misses, and it goes back to California.
NFL got a little hand in there as well. Comes up with some amazing swipes. Here's the 1-4 now. All the dark shirts at one end, and that enables pretty good trapping when they decide to do that.
Tate George now defending Keith Smith. Calhoun sending Chris Smith and Tate George at him. Smith.
Get out of the gate. You're too good.
Only his 4th point of the afternoon, leading the team in scoring, averaging 16.8. And it's down to a 14-point Connecticut lead.
And the match, the one thing, though, they have to rebound. The guards, the perimeter people have to help out. Out of bounds.
And again, keep in mind, I mentioned that California played impressively in the second half against Indiana, shooting 61% from the field to pull it out. This is Ryan Drew.
There's your slap, and Henrik didn't drop it. Now the man-to-man. Run your screen-aways between Fisher and Henrik. There he is.
Drew down to Fisher. Good ball movement.
Man-to-man, they're very tough.
Down to 12. And Smith, Keith Smith of California, picks up a foul. The Golden Bears on a 6-0 run. I think Calhoun squad did have a lead as much as 21 points, is now down to 12.
I think Lou Campanella went inside and said, fellas, we're on the road. We know we play better on the road, and they are in this building.
This is the closest the Bears have been since the score was 14-2. Hennefeld kisses it off the glass.
The strength. Well, when they need anything, the Israeli, a world of knowledge.
8 points from the Dove. Hennefeld averaging 11 on the season.
Little trap now, 1-3-1. This is where they got to make them work, James. You tired the defense out a little bit.
Especially if you come up with easy baskets, so that can be frustrating.
Well, they have a butcher here in the area that sends articles back. Sidney Frankel, that is Israel, on his play. So there's a whole lot of interest in him. I like to see some of those releases, though.
Can you read it?
And on what he writes it on, right? Wax paper?
Can you read it?
No. And they can be very tough in here.
Hendrick, strip by the Gaza stripper. Hennefeld, 2-on-2. Chris Smith.
Oh, Lou Campanelli with a technical, and Sellers is visibly shaken. And you had just mentioned how that leg was bothering him.
And he was favoring it. You could clearly tell throughout the game. Monumental effort on his part just to play, Billy, and the team and coaching staff have been telling us that he's the kind of guy that does not like to be injured.
Oh, great heart. And they're worried about it. And I'm sure after the season they'll take a look at it and maybe have to make some decision. You see the leg just buckled on him. He doesn't have that ability to push off it.
And a point that I'm making there, of course, no one likes to play with injury, but some guys can push around with it. It was, in fact, affecting him slightly.
Such an integral part of this team, and you can see how alert he is. I just think the leg collapsed, and you know, when you have that weakness in any of your major muscles or in your knee, you have that tendency to give a little as you feel the pain.
And the medical staff had told us that he certainly was scheduled for arthroscopic surgery on that left knee as soon as the season's over. Coming next here on CBS Sports, NCAA tournament coverage continues. Game 2, Ohio State and UNLV. Jerry Tarkanian's running Rebels looked awfully impressive in their first round victory, and Clemson, Cliff Ellis' squad with the duo of doom looking to reacquire some of the sting in that name will be playing the L Train in the South.
I'm looking forward to him. Of course, UNLV, the Tark finally has everybody back. They've all paid their hotel incidental bills. And no academic problems. And who plays better man-to-man? And this is well-deserved.
Newbelt, one of 2 female trainers.
The other at Georgetown, right? Lori Michael.
Lori Michael.
Was very well respected. And Jimmy Calhoun relies on her judgments.
And Chris Smith, an 80% free throw shooter on the year, shooting the technical. Of course, that was assessed to Lou Campanelli of California.
And of course, the Rolly Massimino coming out in Lou. His first job was as the assistant at Hillside High under Rolly. The only thing different on the tee, the shirt didn't come out.
He's a little more svelte.
Yes, he is. Conditioned. Something that has escaped Rolando for a number of years.
48-32, Connecticut lead. 16:43 remaining in the game.
He was upset on the swipe defensively at the other end. Cost him the 2. Not a good shot.
And Chris Smith on the line. Lou Campanelli had just a little too much lip for Paul Hausman's taste.
He's trying to shake his club up, too. He's got to get him going. The one guy who's very talented, most of the home run pass here.
Walton, 1-on-2, takes the jumper.
Well, avoids the defensive pressure. But Smith's the one guy that will go on his own and occasionally take that bad shot.
California is perfect from the field. The second half, 4 of 4.
Still the match, all game. Everybody matched to a man in their area. They've been able to get corner jumpers on overloads. This time, Drew follows him.
Burrell.
And that's
This is NFL for 2. Rebounded by Walton. And Smith with a careless pass intended for Brian Walton. Campanelli telling him to settle down.
Yeah, Walton was going baseline, James. He's trying to calm him down. And right away, NFL finds the numbers to his liking. Assist, NFL, goal, Burrell.
12 points for Scott Burrell, the freshman. And Walton draws a foul from the Dub NFL.
Well, he got over there and tried to avoid it, but that's his ability to read and understand. Jimmy did a pirouette, Calhoun on the sideline, but unusual, uncanny ability to read.
And NFL will have to take a seat on the bench with his 3rd personal foul. Of course, in the Big East regular season and tournament play, they were accustomed to the 6-foul rule. 5 fouls in tournament play, NCAA tournament play. Fisher.
And he warded off. He actually threw the left arm.
Got lucky.
He sure did, unless they want to give the contact before. Anytime you raise your hand and extend it, you usually tag.
Foul assessed to Terreno Walker, his 2nd personal foul. Terreno Walker really is playing a lot bigger than his 6'6" size, Billy.
And scoring for them. Big East tournament, great addition.
Roy Fisher with 9 points on the afternoon.
Now, you played a little low post in your lifetime, and I'm sure you extended your arm. If they call the foul right here, that's one thing, but out of that left hand, see? Erasing, and on that next level, you'd be going the other way.
11 points, 6 rebounds for Roy Fisher, Jr. out of Renton, Washington.
Extending the pressure now, trying to come up with a mistake or a quick shot.
It's a 14-point Husky lead with 15:15 remaining. The winner, of course, advances to the round of 16. East Regional action at the Meadowlands Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
James, California has to fight respectability and go after a win now. They've got the first obstacle's over.
George making the obstacle now 16 points, a 52-36 lead by the Huskies.
They just sort of pounded in. This club relies on the threes, and the extended defense is permitting passing lanes to the box.
Fisher has to come outside, and he had a size advantage on Tate George inside. Finally, they go inside to Brian Hendrick, and he draws a foul, the 3rd personal from Terreno Walker. Sellers talking with the team trainer. You see the ice pack on the left knee.
Your trainer's never looked as pretty as that, I know. Mine did.
Getting hurt may not be a bad idea. A slight injury anyway.
She's a professional and a master's, and Jimmy's got a great deal of respect for her.
Yeah, she's been a trainer for 3 years, has her master's degree, obviously extremely competent. And a foul whistled on the inside against Roy Fisher, pushing off on Scott Burrell.
13 a game, and just not valuing the ball the way they should, nor as they're capable of doing.
Average numbers for Connecticut, of course, forcing an average of 22 turnovers a game and averaging 13 steals a game. Smith from three-point land. Brian Hendrick doing a good job on the boards.
And this is their game.
Fisher.
Almost an incomplete finish or send it in.
Not pretty, but effective.
Exactly.
And Gwynn answers right back. Net effect is still a 16-point Connecticut lead, 13:41 remaining.
In a battle of fast break basketball, UConn has the advantage because of their depth. Nice
Good pass. And Drew misses the layup, but is fouled by Chris Smith. And boy, would Ryan Drew love to have that one back again.
Well designed, little back screen, freed him up. Oh. Well, they've been looking in the box. They eliminate anybody from the baseline, therefore no help in the area. There's the elimination, the little brush screen. And oh, does that remind you of that BYU game against Clemson? Oh,
indeed.
And that saved Clemson for that title or that ball game with Temple or LaSalle later on.
Drew takes a seat on the bench for Cal. Bill Ellaby in. The five, Walton, Ellaby, Fisher, Smith, and Hendrick for the Cal Golden Bears.
Good job.
Hustled by DePriest.
That's what he's in there for.
Pass hung up in the air a little too long. Gave DePriest a chance to work around. And Gwynn. Rebounded by Keith Smith. Oh, boy. On the playground, it may work.
Yeah, you're going to argue it in the playground anyhow. If you were the guy, the culprit, the little tippy. I was on my toes. That's what they like, that open basketball where they can get set up with a perimeter jumper.
And Billy, even with that up and down move, again, a good indication of how every shot is challenged by Connecticut.
And who do you think they stole that from, would you say, in the Big East? Georgetown?
Yeah.
I think so, too. To play them, you've got to do some things as well as Georgetown.
Smith loses the handle. This is Walton looking to make amends, and he does.
Tate George couldn't get down to step in.
That 14-point barrier for California, 54-40. Huskies on top. First time in the NCAA tournament since 1979. Jimmy Calhoun certainly's got experience, though. He's taken several Northeastern squads there, 5 to be exact.
With Reggie Lewis, pretty darn good basketball player. With the Celtics right now. Better job with this matchup now. Identifying people. Burrell not guarded at the foul line.
Gwynn, quick jumper. High school.
What a quick release.
4 points. Make it 5 for John Gwynn, the team's 4th leading scorer, averaging 10 a game.
Allen in motion and a hold off down low. Lou knows he needs to go to the foul line or at least get the deuce.
At the conclusion of today's NCAA tournament game, we will select the Chevrolet Players of the Game. In conjunction with the award, Chevrolet will donate $1,000 to the General Scholarship Fund of both schools. Andre Reyes into the lineup for California, replacing Brian Hendrick.
Almost another 5-second violation, or at least a timeout caused by it.
Virtually every time. John Gwynn pounding Brian Walton.
A UConn man-to-man.
Smith finds the range.
Well, the motion offense is going to test UConn now. They're a good man-to-man team, not as good with Hennefeld on the Pines. That's a backcourt.
Gwynn came from the front court, got away with it. 15-point lead by UConn.
They're not making the cuts along the baseline that they were earlier.
Gwynn. Rebounded by DePriest. And a fresh 45 for the Huskies.
Well, the confidence of Jim Calhoun keeping Tate, George, Hennefeld, and Terreno Walker on the Pines. There are 10 people on in this lineup.
And again, 25 points a game coming from the bench. Doesn't hesitate to bring someone off the bench, and that Ball goes off the outstretched hand of Keith Smith as Nadav Hennefeld back into the lineup for Connecticut.
So much for patience, huh? He had a great player. Because Burrell really pursued the basketball, and something that separated UConn from a lot of teams, the desire, the effort, particularly on the glass. They're not real big, but they go after it.
Hennefeld, Chris Smith, Lyman DePriest, John Gwynn, and Scott Burrell, the 5 in for Connecticut. Gwynn, open.
Much better off the dribble, believe it or not.
As most shooters, he tries to shoot himself back into a rhythm.
He likes to bounce in the setup.
And if Vinnie Johnson is his hero, then he certainly is following pattern here.
There's the motion, the back screen's inside. You know what they haven't used? Keith Smith with a pick and roll, and he is very good on it.
Smith, 1-on-2, comes up short. Jump ball, possession arrow favors the Bears.
Keith Smith with everything but on that particular spin move.
So Reyes was in just to give Hendrick a little breather. He takes a seat back on the bench. Hendrick back in.
Reyes gave that California look, huh? The sunglasses the other day.
Yeah, well, he needs to show some in-the-lane toughness.
It'll come. Transfer, right, from Maryland?
Indeed.
That is where UConn has to get a little tougher defend. They've been softer on this end.
Fisher did not look that pass in good. Hendrick is open every time on the inside. And maybe that's a good sign. No ice on the knee of Sellers there.
And Burrell, typical of UConn, got a hand on that post pass. They're looking for the top. Fisher had his man sealed.
Smith, Walton, Hendrick, Fisher, and Ellaby, the 5 for California.
And the coaching that goes on at this lofty level. And UConn, knowing their guard-around series, they backdoor the guard. Smith follows, and they doubled up on the ball, causing the turnover.
Tate George back into the lineup, replacing John Gwynn. And Keith Smith is really having to work hard, Billy, and 1-on-2, 1-on-3, frustration setting in.
Well, when you tee it up, you know who the excellent performer is, and you make sure that you concentrate on him. Here's the overload for Smith.
Inside to DePriest, blocked by Hendrick. Rebounded by Walton. Good job of getting back on D by UConn. No easy baskets for California.
Good help here, too.
Hendrick. Hennefeld, rebound.
What a job by Tate George to help and then to check out. The next goal's a house goal.
DePriest, jump hook. Walton for the Bears.
They do not back off. They're a very confident team. They'll shoot with even numbers or even the odd number against them.
15 points for Roy Fisher, his season's average. And it's a 13-point Husky lead. 8:43 remaining in the game. Chris Smith from three-point land.
And a giveaway by Hendrick. Not necessary. Of course, Burrell with some theatrics.
4 personal fouls. I've got Brian Hendrick down with.
And really not a necessary one. He couldn't get out on time on Smith.
So Campanelli faced with the decision here.
First, they're in that combo. And UConn with Hennefeld, yes, he's taking it out, but he was off the floor. With him on the floor outside, he finds people in the hole, and he might get Hendrick in a disadvantaged position.
The numbers you saw on Lou Campanelli, who has never won a second-round game, include NCAA tournament appearances when he was at James Madison.
Remember vividly, remember the cheerleader and Braddock running into his cheerleader thinking it was a timeout.
Fouls on Keith Smith, his 3rd personal foul.
Played Carolina well that year, too.
Got a start coaching at the University of Bridgeport at the collegiate level, freshman coach. Here in the state of Connecticut, of course. Same school that brought over Manute Bol.
Then he was up at Rhode Island with Tom Carmody. Been around. You don't get it overnight. Good cut by Burrell. So they use the floor.
Chris Smith, running, sweeping hook shot.
And they make passes that people can't get to as well. They don't loop it up for grabs.
18 points for Chris Smith. A whale of a game, defensively and offensively.
Well, you got Hendrick with 4. You might as well use him on offense. He's a great-looking prospect for a young player.
Quick pass to Walton for 3.
And Burrell challenged and took off.
Wide open Burrell. Saw him too late. But the Huskies on top by 15 with 7:39 left. 15-point Connecticut lead, 7:39 remaining. And certainly the story for UConn has been defense, having forced California into 23 turnovers. Rod Sellers re-injured his left knee. He's on the bench. Sure, we won't see him the rest of the way. Roy Fisher has been carrying the burden for California with 15 points on 6 of 7 from the floor and 6 rebounds. And the team's leading scorer right here, Keith Smith. Great defensive job being applied to him. He's only got 6. Fisher.
James, that's the first time against the trap they did something where they got it to a spot to go strong to the basket. They handled it with a direct post pass. And he has made some excellent moves to get that one up on the glass, showed some strength.
Don't forget, coming up next here on CBS Sports, Game 2. Ohio State, UNLV. Others will see Clemson against LaSalle. And if you haven't seen Lionel Simmons, you're in for a treat. One nice all-around package.
And Lionel could have a long train ride if the duo of doom show up. Eldon Campbell and Dale Davis, when they play, they just bang that glass and control the boards.
Roy Fisher said he came to California because he saw the program was on the rise under Lou Campanelli. He wanted to be a part of that, and he certainly has played extremely well here this afternoon.
He and Keith Smith sort of smiled when I said, well, did you want to get away from the rain? Leave those umbrellas
in the Pacific Northwest. 16 points for Roy Fisher. 59-45 lead.
Connecticut's leaving them hang around a little bit, but they are starting to get better shots. Stretching the defense. Of course, with Hennefeld and Smith out there, you've got to concentrate on the long jumper.
And Billy, the thing that strikes me every time I look at Connecticut on offense, they don't have any size in the middle, but you continue to mention team play.
And they're active. Burrell's active. Of course, outside shooting, you don't need the big guys.
And a young man who was formerly the player of the year in the state of Connecticut, Chris Smith. Billy, he's only got 1 field goal from 2-point range, 5 3-pointers.
He's allergic.
Chris Smith, that is.
Likes the threes.
Ellaby forcing it. DePriest loses the handle.
They got the hold on DePriest. More activity for Lou Campanelli as his big guys got involved a little more of late. I think physically you have to take it to UConn. You just can't play a soft kind of game, even though they rely on that perimeter.
Lyman DePriest picks up his second personal foul as Sean Harrell, the junior guard for California, comes in, replacing Ellaby.
A friend of mine was in school when UConn was in the NCAA years ago, Marty Danzig, and he talked about the excitement in this state in '51. Guys like Art Quimby and Ron Bushwell. You remember them, right?
I'm trying to, Bill.
And if Cal, I'll tell you about it later. And of course, if Cal doesn't get going, it's been a fun trip, but a long one after a tough afternoon.
And it's been a long time since they've been in a tournament. It's in 1960, the last year, 30 years ago.
Names like Pete Newell and Darrell Imhoff. Pete, one of the great teachers in the game. Teaches the big guys as well in the summer from NBA and college and high school.
And you know, their team won it in 1959 against the team they played against. Ohio State.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Bobby Knight.
Straight up man now. Realizing time escaping.
Patience offensively, smartly so.
Yeah. Well, Tate's been a great leader. Look at this, the clear.
Can't get the roll. But the ball is knocked out of bounds by California.
And another bad break right here.
And overruled,
Yeah.
as Roy Fisher was arguing his point
He
successfully.
He was right. Well, when you do it nicely, you usually get. I had a problem doing it in the proper fashion.
Roy obviously has done well in debating class.
It's funny when you throw a jacket and say expressive words, you usually don't get the call.
5:41 remaining in the game. 62-46 UConn lead.
They need quick hitters. And there's one of them, but they incomplete.
And Hendrick showing good strength as Lyman DePriest went up. UConn fans thought he had all ball.
Now, James, if you're sitting home, you're saying, why didn't Cal do this all game? Well, it's quite simple. They didn't see man-to-man as much as they're seeing it now. Great camera angle for the little back door. Not as catchable a bounce pass, but a good recovery and a real strong finish. And maybe fingertips at worst.
I agree.
As the Priest went by.
But Hendrick did show good strength in maintaining control. 10 points on the afternoon for Brian Hendrick, 5 under his average. Well below his rebounding average of 7.5 a game as well.
Key for them is getting something out of their pressure. But you got to make them set it up.
Good shot, Kate.
Burrell.
That's too many,
smartly
yeah,
back out.
that's too many mistakes.
The opponent right now is the clock, of course. 5:14 remaining. Tate George. Second shot he couldn't get to drop.
He may have gotten that ball dropped back on his palm. He hasn't been able to complete it.
Smith. In and out. DePriest with the rebound. The Connecticut players, although small on the inside, play bigger.
And position, that's right. It's not the jumping, it's the position. A lot of heads on this club. Mentioned Hennefeld frequently, but Tate, nice look here. Key guy for them.
10 points for Nadav Hennefeld. And the Huskies push the lead out 64-47.
And what Burrell has done when he's come in here for them after the injury is just patiently uses great skills.
Great pass. Great pass from Nadav Hennefeld to Chris Smith. Little English on the ball, compensating for the speed of Chris Smith.
He does have a feel. He learned the game in Israel. A lot of Americans over the years have gone over there. Roy Rubin, an old friend of mine, gave clinics years ago. Haskell Cohen, an old NBA publicist, got guys to go over to teach kids to make passes like that. Just a great feel for the game.
And Bill, did you see the English on the pass so that when he hit the floor,
it came up softly?
Absolutely. All Connecticut play back here at the Hartford Civic Center. Hartford, Connecticut, East Region action, second round play. Take a look at Connecticut, California, Clemson, and LaSalle. And Billy certainly being placed #1 in the East here has not hurt Connecticut at all.
First 10 minutes of this game, it was devastating. First time, it impacted on me. And of course, California didn't handle it very well.
California, a 2-point winner over Indiana. And of course, if the score holds here and Connecticut comes out victorious, they move on to the East Regional, Meadowlands Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
I think he's got something going out there, though, Lou Campanelli.
That being?
Oh, the young people on this team. This is a great experience. I think once you're in it, you understand what it takes, how to handle the media, the excitement. It's all part of the growing experience.
I talked about
you don't want to come up here,
court, quote unquote. Actually, 3 home courts. The old location was Storrs Fieldhouse. Moving to the new arena in January.
When you come by bus to play them, they pay the tolls. They send their own bus for you. Oh, they are tough. It must be the New England air.
A leisurely 30-minute ride away from Hartford, back to Stores.
Again, the quick hitters, James, so important. And passes like that make the hole a little deeper.
And a quick hitter.
Oh! You're not supposed to do that when you're from Tel Aviv. I don't know what the butcher's going to send home in his write-up, the fella from Waterbury, but don't put your hands down. He's going to get it to you. Oh, he loves to pass.
I got to be honest, if I were out there with him, I think I would have had the name of that ball imprinted on my forehead. No way was I expecting that smooth pass.
You went an X10L there, huh? He just delights in getting everybody involved.
Well, Burrell knew it was coming. That's the most important thing, and he's at the free throw line.
Marvin Kessler, who I mentioned, coached over there and was sort of in the middle when he decided he wasn't going to St. John's, and they contacted Jim Calhoun. He said a dorm room was more important to him than Marvin meeting Raquel Welch.
No kidding.
He just wanted the country life, the trees and the atmosphere. When he saw Stores, that was it.
I think that's improved a little bit now. Lane violation on Connecticut. California with the ball.
The bucolic surroundings of New England is what
Good hand by Lyman Dupreece, forced a turnover. 26 turnovers for California. Connecticut forced BU, Boston University, into 27 on Thursday night.
And Cal, as we noted before with the graphic, only 13 a game. And that just takes you out of everything you plan to do. There are certain givens going into a game. That was one of them for them, valuing the ball.
Picture perfect defense, Billy. Dupreece just had his hand in the passing lane. Didn't lose the ball. Nice pass from Tate George to Lyman Dupreece, and Dupreece will be at the free throw line.
Can you see the bloodlines, though, stemming from the Dove? They all have now concentrated on giving and helping and just making adjustments and being unselfish. And this is from Newark, New Jersey, nearby my home, at a Union Catholic. A great look by Tate George. Early in his career, much maligned. Now, a hero at Stores.
Dupreece averaging only 3 points a game. He's got a deuce on the afternoon. 6'5", junior from Highland Park, Michigan. And with this team, Billy, you certainly don't focus on the scoring averages as much as all the intangibles, and certainly Cal knows it all too well. The expressions say it all.
They didn't play their game, and the obvious disgust and, they're upset, disconsolate. And here's just another inadvertent. This one unforced. They've had a few of those during the course of the afternoon. It's tough, but they're going to be better for it, that bench, because Louis is the type of guy that will respond, and so will his kids. I like their young talent.
Class individuals.
Oh.
Obviously impressed with their intelligence, but also just good people.
Good kid. That's why Mrs. Robinson sent her son up there, huh? Isn't that old song? Where have you gone?
But they've just run into an excellent Connecticut team this afternoon.
Of course, the next step, the winner for UConn of the Clemson-LaSalle game. And that'll be
working the clock.
See, huh?
Under 3 minutes remaining.
Very much like Jim Calhoun at Northeastern right now. And he needed guys to play his kind of game, and it took a while. Don Perno had a nice run as the head coach here. Jimmy came in when the program was struggling just a little and got them to play his Northeastern type of basketball, and he's made some adjustments as well.
Well, certainly the name Calhoun will be high on every coaching vacancy list.
He loves
Steve
it.
Smith goes in to score.
He loves it. Well, this is one of the people that I've alluded to. He's a player that had a great year and just didn't come and have the kind of game that I'm sure Lou and he would have liked.
And
But it's
to Connecticut.
And talking to him yesterday, I said he has a move off the pick and roll that I've only seen Jordan do. And I explained it to both he and Lou Campanelli, and Lou said, well, Kevin Johnson did it too. And that's where they go between the man hedging and the defender they're trying to lose. And it's just great speed and use of the dribble.
And I know KJ is hurting seeing his Golden Bears struggling against Connecticut, but this is one excellent defensive squad. And John Gwynn is fouled by Sean Harrell. Isn't it amazing that a player like Kevin Johnson, that much under control, while at Stanford, make that Cal and goes to the pro level, and I mean, is just tearing them apart.
How about Michael Jordan? Same thing. I think they learned the game, though, in fairness. I mean, it's very easy to say, well, you hold a guy under 30 by the way you play, but they learn the whole picture, the total game, and once they get to that next level, you know, they just step it up to what has to be done.
A 17-point Husky lead with 2:19 remaining. Dove Hennefeld with the rebound. And the Huskies will move to the round of 16.
They don't need one guy every night except Hennefeld. The other guys can step up different nights for Jim Calhoun. That's what makes them very difficult to stop.
Keep it moving, Smitty. Get in the middle, good. Hey, yo, Phil, stand back there. Go ahead,
Hendrick.
Just couldn't get it to him early enough in the ball game to be a factor. That's
Nor often enough.
One of the bright prospects, though.
Bobby Knight has some extremely kind words for Brian Hendrick. Said he's going to be an awesome player. But right now, it's an awesome Connecticut team that the fans are showing their appreciation for.
And I love the way Cal's still trying to hustle. Now they finally give one away. I thought they were just playing straight. But Fisher was all out. I thought he played very well, Roy Fisher, as well. Tate trying to be the orchestra leader, raising his hands.
And for Tate George, this has got to be a great feeling. You mentioned before, he endured the boos frequently during the early years here at North.
And he got a lot of reinforcement from his mom, Erica, who, you know, hung in. It wasn't easy. It's a kind of stay. Look at, they got him running already. They're not going to let him get away. Well, they waved the Israeli flag at Storrs. You can see why. These young people will bounce back. They're good. The seniors a great experience.
NFL leads with 10 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 steals. And Tate George, strong afternoon as well, 10 points and plenty of leadership. And Billy, certainly we would be remiss if we didn't talk about how strong a game Chris Smith had, putting the clamps on Keith Smith from California early, as well as doing the job offensively. Excellent game by Chris Smith.
Toe-to-toe. And what did P.J. Colosimo tell Calhoun? Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
And it's been a nice one.
So far, it has.
Oliver Macklin replacing Chris Smith.
Put your hands up.
And one of the co-captains, Steve Peichel, who's hurt his shoulder. And you noticed in warm-ups today, he and Tate George lead them through their exercise. Well, like the baseball player has had tragic injuries to his shoulder, therefore not able to contribute as Tate has, but a very good shooter. And of course, also the level of play has stepped up.
You saw a shot of Tate George over there talking to each of the players. Jim Calhoun quick to say this team has done well because of the leadership off the court of Tate George as well.
And Jimmy's mad at Steve for missing the free throw. It's over, coach. Relax.
Under 40 seconds. Michael up to Gwynn.
How about him initiating the contact? You don't learn that, huh? Without playing hard.
John Gwynn, the man who hates to be late.
That's a cute story, isn't it? Peichel's the guy, right? They always set his alarm wrong. He shows up 2 hours earlier. Oh, well, good clubs have that. The harmony. They waited a while, didn't they, this state?
Most successful basketball team in 90 years here at the University of Connecticut. And this will be the first time their team moved to the round of 16 since 1976.
There's over 20 newspapers follow them daily. Every move they make and every decision that goes into the program, the papers chronicle. They're involved with their Huskies. And he's got them all loving their basketball. The Celtics? Who are they?
Well, let me ask you, take a look at Jim Calhoun. Could they legitimately be this year's Seton Hall?
Well, they don't have the physical play for all the seniors, but if there's such a thing as a dream season, this is it.
Last 10 seconds. Connecticut moves on to the round of 16.